one of the other things, too, that we now see being discussed in news reports is whether or not the separatist movement in the South, which is certainly concerned with what they see happening with Houthis taking over in the other parts of Yemen, whether or not that is creating a vacuum that al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula is also able to exploit, whether this is leading to more recruitments there. Sama, what's your take on that?
Well, my take is slightly different. I think that Yemen's judicial system has been failing long before 2011, right before the revolution. I think to blame all the mistakes that we're witnessing today on a failed revolution is a bit extreme. Yemen has been in bad shape ever since the early 90s, and we've seen a deterioration in the judicial system since. Corruption in Yemen is a very common thing, and it's very institutionalized, and we all know that to get from point A to point B, we have to kind of somehow get involved in something like that to process our papers. Or, as Yemenis, we know that we can't go to the law unless we're connected to someone, or some tribal sheikh can back us up, or someone in the government can help us out. And that's been the case in Yemen for years. I think the problem here is that the South has been calling for secession ever since 2009. In reality, they've been calling for it since 1994, but their voices were quieted down. So what the revolution did is it gave them the opportunity to raise their voice higher. The problem with the Southern secession is that it's a coalition group made up of smaller groups that fail to unite in their agenda. They have claimed that they've talked, they've held meetings, they've held summits, and even the National Dialogue Conference, which I think it's very safe to say now has failed, was organized by the UN. They've managed to organize events for the Southerners, and they tried to bring them together. But everything that has tried to unite the Southerners in their cause has failed. And I think the problem here in Yemen is that a lot of the leading figures that we see, whether they're in the north or in the south, are older figures that had a huge part to play in Yemen's history. And so when they come back on the scene, they have their whole entire history with them. And so when these leaders are trying to kind of unite for something new, they fail to do so because the people in the south cannot forget their past, and their past was very bloody. And so in that sense, what we see in Yemen now is a divide militarily, where Sana'a is the capital is under the occupation of the Houthi group. However, the south is controlled very strongly by the military. And that's kind of odd because it makes somebody think that, what happened to the military? We've talked about the restructuring that took place in 2011. The restructuring failed, in my opinion, because it was done in a not so well manner, in the sense that they tried to weaken Ali Abdullah Saleh's powers, and in a sense they alienated many of his soldiers that should have not been alienated. They should have been brought back because that's their profession, to work in the military. And so with the military disintegration, why is there a strong military presence in the south and not in the north? What is going on here? There are so many questions that need to be answered. And I think the most important question that we all need to be asking is not what America's role is in Yemen. Because if America tries to interfere any more in anything else, then the Yemenis would pretty much accuse of the U.S. of going way past what they're supposed to do. They're already doing that technically in the drone program. However, President Hadi welcomed their drone program, so the government welcomed every American effort on the ground. And so in a sense, I don't think we should be asking what should America do. We should ask what should the Yemenis do? What should they do to save themselves from the situation that's really tricky and that it's going to lead to Yemen's demise? So I think we need to focus on how Yemen can recover, because right now it's playing into the proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia.